You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
And now, a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud, the cybercrime analytics leader. SpyCloud disrupts cybercrime by telling you what criminals know about your business and your customers, so you can take action to prevent ransomware, account takeover, and online fraud. SpyCloud constantly recaptures and analyzes new data from the criminal underground, including credentials, cookies, and PII siphoned from malware-infected devices. With knowledge of the specific data criminals have in hand from InfoStealer malware on managed and unmanaged devices, security teams can respond with a more efficient and effective process called post-infection remediation. Get SpyCloud's post-infection remediation guide outlining the 7 steps for preventing a malware infection from becoming a full-blown ransomware incident. Visit spycloud.com/cyberwire. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire. And we thank SpyCloud for sponsoring our show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Research Saturday. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is our weekly conversation with researchers and analysts tracking down the threats and vulnerabilities, solving some of the hard problems of protecting ourselves in a rapidly evolving cyberspace. Thanks for joining us.
We all have seen the news after ChatGPT, and we all have seen how people are starting to get really interested and hyped by the new technology. And that motivated our colleagues to actually inspire them to think that there might be an issue with this integration.
That's Sahar Abdelnabi from CISPA Helmholtz Center for Information Security. The research we're discussing today is titled A Comprehensive Analysis of Novel Prompt Injection Threats to Application Integrated Large Language Models.
There might be some new security vulnerabilities that we are really not noticing when we put these large language models in other applications and rely on their output and also rely on the input that they might digest in real time from other untrusted or unverified sources.
Well, let's go through the research together here. Can you take us through exactly how you got your start, and let's go through the findings?
Yeah, sure. So currently, the main way people have been interacting with ChatGPT before the plugins and before Bing Chat and so on is that you go to ChatGPT, you enter a question or anything that you would like to ask for, and then ChatGPT answers. That was the main way of communication. There is a clear input, there is a clear output. And with that, there were still some risks because there were some people that could circumvent the filtering and maybe generate some harmful output or malicious output. And there were also some risks that people rely on the information from ChatGPT as trusted or factual, while in some cases, it's not. However, it was a clear scenario. There is a clear input and clear output. Now, when we integrate LLMs or large language models with other applications, the line between the instructions that are directly given by the users and the other instructions that might be maliciously injected somewhere else can get really blurry. So I might ask Bing Chat, for example, a question, and to answer my question, Bing Chat can go and search online for some information or some sources or websites or whatever. However, someone out there might plant some hidden instructions for Bing Chat, and these instructions will be digested by the model and will affect how the model can communicate with me later on. So there is some hidden layer of communication of instructions that me as a user might have not been aware of. And therefore, there is a clear violation of security boundary that could happen and could open up a lot of new attack vectors.
Well, explain to me how you all went about testing this.
Yeah, so when we actually tested these attacks, at that time, Bing Chat was not yet available, at least for us here in Germany. I'm not sure if it was released earlier, maybe in other countries, like the case with BART nowadays. But when we actually wrote the paper, we didn't have ChatGPT APIs. We have Bing Chat, and we really had limited sort of not state-of-the-art models. So what we did, actually, ironically, that was only less than 2 months ago. It's nearly 1 month or like 5 or 6 weeks. We had access to the latest GPT-3 model, which is the Da Vinci model. And we simulated the tools, like the plugins, actually, that we all are seeing now. So we simulated plugins or tools like a personal assistant that can read your emails and maybe draft or send emails, which again, we now see LLMs are integrated into applications like emails. We simulated also a tool that when you ask it a question, it go to Wikipedia and maybe find some relevant Wikipedia articles and read them and answer a question and so on. Again, because we didn't have really access to the current tools that are actually available nowadays. So we did this, we had some instructions in the input to the model, like in the Wikipedia article, for example, that the model would be reading during the search, or in the email that the model would be receiving as a personal assistant agent or so on. And the instructions are hidden or embedded in these input to the model to simulate the case when the LLM is integrated in other applications. And then the user is asking the chat or the simulated chatbot that we have built also using Da Vinci for, we experimented for some reason with Albert Einstein. So the user might ask the chatbot about information about Albert Einstein, and then the chatbot will go and read the Wikipedia page, which we prepared for it. We simulated that it's the Wikipedia page, but we had some instructions in there. And then you, unexpectedly, you might find the model speaking in a pirate accent because we told it to do so. Or you might find the model asking you for personal information because, again, we told it to do so in the Wikipedia page that we have prepared. Later, now we have access to ChatGPT APIs, and we also have access to Bing Chat, and we replicated a lot of these attacks with Bing Chat as well. So in that case, we created a local HTML file, for example, that contains these hidden instructions. And you might have seen that Bing Chat or the Edge browser has this sidebar feature. So there is a sidebar feature. You can, like, if you are browsing a certain website, you might open the sidebar and then open Bing Chat in the sidebar and start to speak to it, like tell it, for example, summarize the current website for me. And in that case, it reads the context of the current page or the current website that you are actually using or reading. And any instructions hidden in this page that might be hidden by any attacker would actually affect the model. So now, after the paper has released with like 6 weeks, we can say that we can also replicate most of these attacks very, very effectively and even much more successful than we have imagined using the initial Da Vinci model using the recent GPT-4 that's integrated into Bing Chat.
CISOs everywhere invest huge amounts of time and money to defend against external threats and protect sensitive data stored inside their organizations. But how do they protect sensitive data that's constantly being shared outside with others? The answer is data-centric security from Virtru. It's affordable, simple to deploy, and integrates elegantly with the collaboration apps you use every day, like Google Workspace and Microsoft 365. Trusted by more than 8,000 organizations, you can try Virtru for free. Just visit virtru.com/cyberwire. That's virtru.com/cyberwire. This reminds me of, I suppose in some ways it reminds me of, people using things like search engine optimization to try to rise to the top of Google results. But then also we hear people doing kind of SEO poisoning, where they want malicious things to rise to the top. I mean, this strikes me as being along the same lines as that sort of thing. Is that an accurate perception on my part?
That's actually a very, very accurate observation, because this is also one of the things that we imagine how these attacks might be disseminated, right? So some people might use strategies like exactly SEO poisoning in order to get their websites retrieved by search engines. And if they are retrieved, then the LLM running the search engine would also be poisoned or ingested by these prompts that are hidden in their websites.
So what do you recommend then? I mean, you've demonstrated this capability. Do you have any suggestions for how we might go forward?
For whom exactly? So for users or for...
Well, let's do them one at a time. Why don't we start with the users?
I think at the moment, at least my recommendation would be to really be sure to not use the models if you need 100% reliable and factual output. You can ask Bing Chat, tell me some recipes for today, which is fine because there is really no huge consequences that would come out of that question. But if you really want to look for very reliable answers, I wouldn't recommend to use LLMs for this. And I would definitely recommend to verify not only if the output is factual or not, because this is a huge part of the whole thing, but also to verify the links that maybe Bing Chat might suggest to you. Because, so for example, as part of the answer, Bing Chat can tell you, find more information here or whatever. But these links might be malicious because the prompts might actually tell the model, instruct the model to suggest, for example, harmful URLs.
What about for developers, for folks who are out there and are eager to use these APIs? Are there warnings for them as well?
I would say yes. At the moment, it's really not so clear what the consequences of these models are. And I think there is a lot of harm that could be done by the current race of really the whole community to integrate LLMs and everything. And I think we really need to stop and ask ourselves if we are ready for the whole safety considerations at the moment or not.
Are there any things that you and your colleagues are going to work on next? Has this work led you to more interesting or additional interesting avenues to explore?
Of course. I mean, as I said, this has been done only less than 6 weeks ago. And we actually came up with this whole paper in only 1 week. So we wrote it in 1 week, and we did all the experiments in just 1 week. And it was crazy. It was the fastest thing I ever seen come together, actually. And since then, we really were not able to catch a break, honestly, because every day there are new models released out there. There are new opportunities for attacks. And honestly, things that when we wrote the paper, we thought they are a bit futuristic, like models that can read your emails, send automatic emails, and these emails are somehow poisoned, and all these. It kind of seemed like very futuristic things and somehow a bit of sci-fi. But now we have all of these things. I thought that this would be a little bit longer along the way when we have all these models, but they are actually ready at the moment. And yeah, since then we have been working on actually testing the whole ideas on the models that are more recent, such as Bing and ChatGPT, GPT-4, and so on. And actually, surprisingly, the attacks work so much better when we have better models.
Our thanks to Sahar Abdelnabi from CISPA Helmholtz Center for Information Security. The research is titled A Comprehensive Analysis of Novel Prompt Injection Threats to Application Integrated Large Language Models. We'll have a link in the show notes. And now, a word from our sponsor, Truefort. Truefort knows that cyber attacks are not devastating unless they're allowed to spread. Truefort uses the EDR agents you already have installed to provide a clear understanding of the activity within your application environments. From containerized to legacy bare metal servers, Truefort maps all behavior within applications to ease your enforcement of microsegmentation policies and service account protections. Learn why the world's largest enterprises trust Truefort to give them control over lateral movement at www.truefort.com. The CyberWire Research Saturday podcast is a production of N2K Networks, proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. This episode was produced by Liz Irvin and senior producer Jennifer Iben. Our mixer is Elliot Peltzman. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.